Rambling through the streets of Manhattan at 4 a.m, Matthew Lodge chooses his victims at random. He traps German tourist Carolyn Dekeyser and her flatmate outside an apartment block. He asks Carolyn if she thinks she's going to die. He then tells her, "Tonight is the night you're going to die." Hearing the commotion, Joe Cartright comes out of his ground floor apartment to their aid. Lodge, the hulking 120-kilogram NRL front rower, charges into the flat. Beginning 15 minutes of terror, Cartright, his wife Ruth Fowler, and their 9-year-old son Henry will never forget.
It's obviously something that's going to affect us for the rest of our lives.
Then with the West Tigers, Lodge's rampage occurs on October 16, 2015, while on an end-of-season trip. With Miss Fowler and Henry locked in a bathroom, Lodge continually punches the door and puts a hole in it.
It was really difficult in the aftermath for all of us, including, a 9-year-old boy that asked not to be killed.
With Lodge out of control, Mr. Cartwright leaves the apartment to see if police have arrived. And then Lodge attacks, putting him in a headlock before unleashing, punching him in the head. Mr. Cartwright escapes, but Lodge isn't finished, dragging him back out and throwing more punches before going back in to terrorise Ms. Fowler and Henry some more. 9 New York City police officers attend and arrest Lodge at gunpoint. He spends 2 weeks in New York's infamous Rikers Island prison. He pleaded guilty to assault and was sent back to Australia. A civil suit in mid-2017 resulted in a $1.6 million judgment to the victims.
We don't want Matthew Lodge not to play. That's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for him to take responsibilities for his actions, to have some justice in this. You're allowed to have a second chance. You're allowed redemption. You can't receive redemption unless you feel a sense of remorse, a sense of responsibility.
Lodge is on a base salary of about $100,000 as he seeks a second chance. None of that wage will go towards paying off his debt. The Broncos and the NRL saying it's a matter for Lodge to deal with, not them.
It sounds as though we're making him out to be the victim. He's not the victim. He's not the victim at all. We're the victims.
Adding further insult, he's never apologised.
He has never reached out to us.
The victim's lawyer at odds with NRL boss Todd Greenberg, who believes the civil damages are not their responsibility.
I would just ask Todd Greenberg and the National Rugby League what they want the league to be known for. Is it an organization that protects women, that respects families and cares about the well-being of its fans? Or is it an organization that's willing to protect any of its players, no matter what they do, as long as they help the bottom line?
Neil Breen joins us now from NRL HQ with more. Neil, it seems unbelievable, really, that Lodge is free and able to play in the first round.
Yes, it sure does, Deb, especially when you've seen that vision that we've just shown. Now, the questions surrounding Lodge are mainly about the fact that neither he, the NRL, nor the Broncos have made any provision to put aside any of his wages to ultimately pay that debt to the New York family, and also the fact that he's never apologised or spoken publicly about this issue. Now, Todd Greenberg, the NRL CEO, ultimately made the decision to give him his licence back, and Cameron Williams asked him all the questions about that Lodge issue very recently in an interview.
Todd, are you comfortable with your decision to register Matthew Lodge?
Yeah, and I am very comfortable, albeit I understand that it will polarise opinion in our community.
The pub test is that Todd Greenberg wouldn't be so lenient with Lodge if he'd broken into his house, bashed the tripe out of him, threatened his wife and his son.
And I understand why people would pitch it like that, I really do. And trust me when I tell you that it wasn't something that I arrived at overnight. But what I'd say to you is this, that Matthew Lodge made a very grave error of judgment some years ago. A very poor decision, and no one at the Rugby League, in the NRL, nor in the Broncos, condones any of that behaviour. In saying that though, Rugby League is a sport that provides a second chance to people. Rugby League is a sport that helps people grow up. It is also a sport that allows young men to come in and be better back within their communities. And I think that's the opportunity with Matthew Lodge. Ultimately though, the decision and accountability rests with him, and he needs to take this second chance and do everything he can with it.
So only 6 days until the NRL season opener. Lodge expected to play for the Brisbane Broncos against the St George Illawarra Dragons at Cogra. It'll be interesting to see what happens between now and then.